So you've probably heard the term DevOps thrown around, right? It's been buzzing around the tech world for over a decade. But what does it actually mean? Is it a job? Is it some new tool? Or is it a philosophy? Well, today we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to take DevOps from just a vague buzzword and turn it into a real practical blueprint for how to build and deliver software like the best in the world. Okay, let's dive in.
To really get DevOps, you first have to understand the problem it was born to solve. For decades, this was the reality in most tech companies, this giant, invisible wall of confusion right between two critical teams. On one side, you have the development team. Their whole goal, their whole incentive, is to move fast and ship cool new features. But on the other side, you have the operations team. They're rewarded for keeping things stable, for preventing outages. To them, change is risk. And this natural conflict, it just creates friction, blame games, and grinds everything to a halt.
All right, so here's the game plan for today. We've just talked about the problem, that wall of confusion. Next, we'll dig into the solution, what DevOps actually is, and then the really good part, why it matters so much. We'll look at the technical pillars that make it all work, get real about the challenges of making the change, and finally, peek into the future of automation. Let's do this.
Okay, so if DevOps is the big solution to that wall of confusion, what is it really? It's way more than just buying a new piece of software. It's a fundamental shift in culture. It's a whole new philosophy for how we work together.
You know, when you boil it all down, this is the heart of it. The official definition isn't about tools or roles. It's about two things, speed and quality. That's it. The whole point is to shrink the time it takes to get an idea from a developer's brain into the hands of a real user. But, and this is the key part, without breaking things. It's all about tearing down those silos we just saw.
And look, this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. The movement really kicked off way back in 2009 with the first ever DevOps Days conference. From there, it grew and evolved. We had huge milestones, like in 2016 when the DORA metrics came out and finally gave us a standard way to measure performance. Then came powerful automation tools like GitHub Actions going mainstream. And now, we're looking at a future where AI is going to play a huge part.
All right, so we get the what, but now for the big question, why does this matter so much? Why is every company, from tiny startups to massive enterprises, investing so heavily in this shift? Well, because the payoff is absolutely staggering.
And we're not talking about some niche practice with so-so results. No way. The data here is just overwhelming. A major survey in 2020 found that 99%, almost everyone, said that adopting DevOps had a positive impact on their organization. In the business world, that's about as close to a sure thing as you can get.
So how do you actually measure something like positive impact? Well, lucky for us, we have what are called the 4 key DORA metrics. These are the gold standard in the industry. And what's so brilliant about them is that they measure both sides of the coin. You've got speed metrics, like how often you deploy, and stability metrics, like how often those deployments fail. It perfectly captures that balance of moving fast without breaking things.
And when you start measuring this stuff, the difference between the best and the rest, it's not just a little bit. It is absolutely astronomical. The elite performing teams, they deploy code 208 times more often than low performing teams. Just let that sink in. We're talking about deploying multiple times a day versus maybe a few times a year. It's a different universe.
And it's not just about frequency. Get this, their lead time. So, the time from when a developer hits save on a piece of code to when that code is live and running for customers is 106 times faster. This isn't just an improvement, it's a complete game changer. It gives businesses a massive competitive advantage to react, to innovate, and to deliver value at a speed that used to be pure fantasy.
Okay, those numbers are, honestly, they're kind of mind-blowing. But how? How do teams actually pull this off? It's not magic, I promise. It all comes down to a set of core technical practices or pillars that make this new way of working possible.
So right at the center of this whole universe is something called the CI/CD pipeline. The best analogy I've ever heard is to think of it like an automated software factory. The raw material, the code, goes in one end. Then it moves down an assembly line where it's automatically built, tested, and scanned through all these quality checks. And out the other end comes the finished product, a high-quality, reliable software release, ready to go. This automation is the engine that drives everything.
Now, that pipeline is the engine, but it's supported by these 7 key pillars. We don't have time to go super deep on all of them, but the big ideas are about managing everything as code. Not just the application, but your servers, your network, your whole deployment process. It's also about building systems that you can actually see inside of and understand. The goal for all of these is to make the entire software lifecycle automated, repeatable, and secure. Speaking of security,
one of the most critical evolutions here is this idea of DevSecOps. And the key concept is something called shifting security left. See, the old way was to have the security team check everything right at the very end, just before release. But that's slow, it's expensive, and it's frustrating. Shifting left means we build automated security checks right into that software factory pipeline, from the very beginning. Security becomes everyone's job, all the time.
So this all sounds amazing, right? Like a magic bullet for any company. But let's get real for a second. Making this happen is a major transformation. So let's ground ourselves in reality and talk about that journey, including the very real challenges you'll face.
You know, the funny thing is, the biggest roadblocks usually aren't about the tech. They're about people. The number one challenge is a deep-rooted culture that's just resistant to change. People are comfortable in their silos. On top of that, you're often dealing with decades of messy, complex legacy systems, tool chains that are basically held together with duct tape, and even old-school bureaucratic processes that just can't keep up.
So, if those are the obstacles, what's the path forward? How do you actually do this? Well, it's a step-by-step process. You have to start with a brutally honest look at where you are today. From there, you have to actively, deliberately change the culture to make it safe for people to try new things. Then you can tackle the process changes, like moving to Agile, and the technical changes, like building out that unified CI/CD pipeline and really creating that software factory.
All right, we've looked at where DevOps came from and where it is today, but this field moves at lightning speed. So to wrap things up, let's gaze into the crystal ball a bit and see what's coming next. Because believe me, the future is even more automated.
And some of the stuff on the horizon is pretty mind-bending. We're on the verge of AI not just writing bits of code, but actually designing and optimizing the delivery pipelines themselves. We're seeing practices like GitOps expand to manage things like databases and AI models. There's even a push for carbon-aware systems that schedule tasks to run when there's more renewable energy on the grid. How cool is that?
And that really brings us to the final big idea here. For the last 10+ years, DevOps has been about using automation to free up brilliant people from tedious work so they can be more creative. Now, as AI starts to automate the automation itself, it just leaves us with this incredible, exciting question to ponder. With all that power at our fingertips, what amazing things are we going to build next?